Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Talking Some Sens. This week we're joined by Chris Sinclair
Hello, folks. Bonjour.
and myself, Jake Lariviere. This week Alex is not going to be here, and he's not going to be here for next little bit because he's on vacation at the moment. So, Alex, if you're listening to this, turn off the podcast, enjoy your vacation, man.
Amen. Amen. What are you doing? Don't listen to us anymore.
Absolutely. How are you doing today, Chris?
Doing really well. Considering the week that the Sens have had, I would say overall, yeah, I'm hanging in there. Yeah, doing well. Sure. It snowed. I love the snow. I love that. So here we are.
That's fair.
I appreciate the look on your face, Jake, was like, no, I don't feel the same way.
See, me at work, me and my coworker, we have a little man. We made a little snowman. We've called him, I think it was Freddy, we called him. And I saw Freddy half melt today, so that made me happy.
Oh, so you're the opposite. See, I agree with that, but I would say if it's going to be cold, it better be snowing. And if it isn't snowing, then it better be 25 degrees and sunny. So today was cold and it was snowing. So I take that as a win. It's all about the small victories for the next 6 or 7 months as we in Canada enjoy the cold.
That's a good point. Yeah. I hate winter any way, shape, or form. The only good thing that winter has to offer for me is hockey. And you don't even need winter for that anymore. There's hockey in the desert. There's hockey in Florida. There's hockey in Arizona. There's hockey in Vegas. There's hockey everywhere where there's no snow. So to me, winter is useless now.
Yeah, that's fair. It's no longer a uniquely hockey season.
Yeah. And on that note, we got a little bit of a lighter show for you guys today. We're going to talk about coaching, and we'll see what else after that. Let's get right into it, though. The Ottawa Senators are not 500. They are 8-9-0 now so far in the season, and their last game against the Florida Panthers was absolutely abysmal. We'll get a bit more into that game a little later if we have time, but we're going to talk more about the coaching itself. Recently, just a couple of days ago, Darren Dreger went on inside training. Darren Dreger is from TSN. He went on reported that the team's new ownerships, Michael Langlois, is not currently looking to make a coaching change as of right now. The exact quote was, "No, not at this point." And I know that's not what Senators fans want to hear. I would say that the patience will imminently begin to wear thin if things don't turn around. DJ Smith drove down the sword after the loss to the Panthers. Whether you enjoy old school shenanigans or not, it's at least evidence that the players still care. They still played hard and were literally in the fight against the Panthers. Management vows that they are patient for the time being. So before I go into what my thoughts are for this, do you want to add anything on just that little snippet there, Chris?
Yeah, I would say, especially for anyone who watched this last game against Florida, and again, if we have time, we'll get into it a little bit more in depth. If anyone watched that game, whether you were watching on TV or I apologize if you had to watch it in person and pay for that, that was had to have been the worst game I've seen the Ottawa Senators play. I mean, recency bias aside, probably in the last, at least, probably, I want to say ever. It might not have been ever, but I would say probably in a long, long time. And I would say for fans, I understand why they would want to not have him as a coach anymore. That makes total sense. DJ, I mean, watching, and this is something I tweeted out as well, watching the difference or dichotomy between Paul Maurice, who was winning, and his emotions, and he was cursing and he was swearing at the refs. He was like getting in with his team and he was like, "We got this. Let's keep going. And DJ, where the camera would pan to the bench and you just see him chewing gum, which is great. Like, sure, but like do something, say something to the team. Like the team needs, that's part of what during a game, it's not just about running lines. It's about inspiring the team. It's about driving the team. It's about encouraging the team. It's about providing feedback to the team throughout the entirety of the game. And when you're not doing that, then what are you doing? What are you doing? You're not doing your job. You're not doing your game time job as a head coach by ensuring that you are encouraging and getting the most out of those players. And I don't think he got the most out of the players. And a ton of people have said, and you've commented, and myself included, when you watched what the players were doing on the ice, you cannot tell me that the players were playing for him. There was no system. There was no structure. He lost the players in that game. And between periods, I don't know, obviously, what was said, but not the right, I can tell you the right things weren't said. And so I understand why the fans would be enraged with the idea of maintaining DJ Smith. I do also, and it pains me to say this, and it doesn't mean that I want DJ to stay, but I do also understand why Langlois is coming here, and he said right from the beginning that he wants to, and same with Staios, he wants to create calm. He wants to create stability within the organization. He wants that positive vibe. He doesn't want to keep switching things up. I do think that's going to happen, but he doesn't want it to happen all at once. He wants there to be like let's just take a breather. Like pause. That's what he wants. So it's what he wants versus what the team needs. I think he's going to realize what the team needs is a fresh start.
See, that's where I'm going to say I half agree with you. Okay. I agree that the team needs a fresh start, but I also think that the team needs to get away from the noise that the Ottawa Senators are known to be around. For the last, I'm going to say 20 years, the Ottawa Senators have been headlining news all over the place, whether it be for an Eagles concert, whether it be for wanting to move the team the day of a Winter Classic, not wanting to pay your star players, from all these little shenanigans that the Ottawa Senators have had, the Ottawa Senators fan base has had to endure for the last, I'm going to say 20 years, give or take. We need to get away from that. And to do that, you need to build a solid foundation from the higher ups, from the ground up, but in this case, from the top to the bottom. The foundation of this organization starts at the top, and that starts with Michael Langlois. It starts with Steve Staios. It starts with the general manager. And then it goes down to the coaching staff. You need to have a solid hockey operations department to be able to make the decision on a new head coach. And while I agree a new head coach is definitely needed, I think that if Sens fans are able to, I'm not going to say suffer, because we shouldn't have to suffer. Everything we've done, everything we've had to see so far, we shouldn't have to suffer anymore. But if this is the last bit of suffering for a long, long time, so that ownership can get this right, I'm willing to do it. It's going to be a really, really, really frustrating season. It's going to be a very painful season to watch at times, but it's going to have to be one, in my opinion, it's going to have to be one of those seasons where we hang on to the little victories, as you stated earlier with Winter. So from my point of view, there's a lot of guys out there available right now. There's, say, Jay Woodcroft. There's, say, Dean Evison. There's Patrick Roy, Claude Julien, even Ricard Gronberg, who's a guy I've been talking about a long, long time now. Those guys are all currently available right now. But at the end of the day, Steve Staios is not the general manager of the Ottawa Senators. He's the interim general manager, while also being the president of hockey operations. I think Steve Staios' main job right now has to be filling out hockey operations how he thinks hockey operations can run, so that the new general manager, alongside his team of assistants, consultants, advisors, um, input from the president, Steve Sales himself, and my input from Michael Landlois, and input from even the NHL if that's needed, to pick the right guy.
So,
But
okay.
go ahead.
No. Keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject.
That's fair.
Keep going.
That doesn't mean that the Senators should have to just continue suffering under DJ Smith. Because while I think DJ Smith is a great guy, and while the players might love playing for him, I said it on the day he was hired, and I've said it every day since. DJ Smith is an assistant coach having to play the role of a head coach. Something a colleague of ours and good friend of ours, Alex Langlois, said many times in our troop chat. OHL head coach doesn't automatically make a good NHL head coach. The systems are completely different. Systems that work in juniors don't necessarily work in the NHL. And while DJ's dump and chase worked in the OHL, it doesn't work in the NHL. It's too, I'm going to say, simple for the NHL. It's one of those plays that are too easily broken down. It's easy to mess up on a dump and chase, is what I'm saying. So DJ Smith is one of those guys who should have stayed as an assistant coach and kept his job as assistant coach. And it's just that what it is. But that being said, I don't think that DJ Smith should be the head coach of the Ottawa Senators come January 1st. What I would honestly do if I were in Steve Staios' position, I would let the entire coaching staff go. Maybe not the entire coaching staff go, because an entire interim coaching staff is a bit difficult to do. I would have an interim head coach, or at absolute bare minimum, if DJ Smith is going to finish the season, have the assistants change their assignments. Have Davis Payne go on a PK instead of penalty kill. Have Jack Capuano go on the power play instead of penalty kill. Not saying that they're necessarily meant to do a good job on either front, but at least it'll be some sort of a different point of view. It's not going to solve our problems, but it might make us just a tad bit better so we can at least be in the hunt. Regardless, DJ Smith should absolutely be gone by the latest this season. If the Ottawa Senators miss the playoffs, which it's very well looking like to be the case, DJ Smith should not have this job going next season. He's coached the team. He's the second longest tenured coach in Ottawa Senators history, and he's the 9th leading points percentage win. I think his point percentage is .469 after last game. And for someone who's been the coach for 5 years now, that's just unacceptable. Rebuild or not, you have to be able to get out of that. And while DJ Smith has done a tremendous job in terms of getting the young players ready to play in the prime time, he's not the coach that's going to win you the Stanley Cup. He's just not. On that note, I'm going to throw it back to Chris, and I'll let you give your thoughts before we move on to potential future options.
Nice. Okay, so love what you said there. I have 3 things. What I would say is to start with, if we're going to, as you said, start at the top and work our way down, which I agree with in this case. Staios, he's the interim GM, but he has the full support of Michael Landlois. So I am of firm belief that Michael Landlois will say, you know what, Steve, you make those decisions, whether it's the rest of the front office staff, it's the next head coach, and that next head coach comes in knowing that he will be supported by the president of hockey operations, so that the next GM, I firmly believe, that's the structure. So it's, say Steve Staios hires Jake. So Jake, you come in as head coach. You know that I've got your back. Or sorry, Steve Staios has your back.
Yeah.
And Steve Staios will go to bat for you regardless of who the next GM is. I don't think based off of what we're seeing the at least the past couple of games, and realistically even back to the Sweden games where yes, they won, which is, I mean, let's take a win where we can win, but they weren't great games. They sure they had good endings, but they weren't great games. There needs to be a change, and that change, they're not going to be able to find a GM as fast as they're going to be able to find a head coach, the right head coach. And I firmly believe in Michael Landlauer and Steve Staios signing off on the right head coach, and then saying Steve Staios will continue in his role for the rest of this season, and then they will as the season goes on, and then in the off season, that's when they're going to find their GM. They're not going to find the GM in the season. They're going to find their head coach in the season. And I would agree with you. I'm fine with throwing a January 1st deadline. I love that. Let's do it. Let's give him, he has another month. If he can't do it, if he can't figure it out, then he can't figure it out, and DJ's gone. And they will bring in the coach that will continue moving forward with this team. But as you said, DJ was, and I've said this 1,000 times before, DJ was the right person to get to develop these players. He's not the right person to be able to progress this team through the playoffs. But it was interesting because when I was looking at his resume, DJ, this is, I was looking at it and I said to myself, like, he's been terrible in the NHL. He's right now in 291-ish games. I don't know when these stats are necessarily updated specifically, but say around 291 games, he's 120, 139, and 32. And no playoff wins, although that's not entirely his fault. But in the AHL, he, in 204 games over 3 seasons with Oshawa, he was 135, 53, and 16, right? Where he won a Memorial Cup, he lost in the 3rd round, and he made it into the playoffs every year. And in his last year, he made it to the Memorial Cup. He won the Memorial Cup. So that's one thing where it's like, I get why, on one hand, his NHL record is terrible, but he clearly is a good head coach. He's just not a good head coach at this level yet. And that's because he hasn't had, he hasn't been an assistant coach to someone who is of a higher ilk to be able to help him to understand the game, make adjustments, connect with players, inspire players, as I said earlier. And then lastly, what I would say before we get into coaching options is with everything I've said about coaching and the need for a change there, and I've shared this with you, Jake, as well as Alex in our group chat that we often mention, I share a similar sentiment that I am concerned that they will do an interim head coach. And I know this is like going directly against what I said, but I need to emotionally prepare myself for this, which is that they will they will hire DJ, and you know what I'm going to say. And they will bring in interim Jack Capuano. So what I would say is the reason that feels like it would be the next thing. And I was thinking about this the other day, was that I think it was Buffalo. If I'm not mistaken, it was Buffalo a couple of seasons ago was looking at before they hired, forgive me, I don't remember their head coach now.
Renato.
Yes, thank you. Before they hired him, they had requested to Capuano, and Ottawa declined that. So to me, I'm saying the only reason they would say that, at least that was under Dorian.
That was under Melnyk.
Yes, Melnyk, yes. Dorian, yes. But that might have led them to assume that at some point they may elevate Capuano. They wanted to keep him, kind of feel it out a little bit more, see how he gets into the system, the structure, how is he around the players, and then give him the head coach role. So that's the only caveat that I should add to what I had said earlier. I don't I don't want that to be the case, but I don't want anyone, myself included, to be shocked if Smith is fired, or sorry, relieved of his duties effective immediately, and then they elevate Jack Capuano to interim head coach until the end of the season.
See, that's where I'm going to jump in. I'm going to say, I'll talk about your logic in a second. Jack Capuano was not the reason why Jack Capuano was denied an interview with the Buffalo Sabres was because that was common practice for the Ottawa Senators throughout the entire Eugene Melnyk era.
Good call.
It's not because they plan on elevating Jack Capuano. I'm sure it's something that was mildly considered, but I don't think that was the leading reason to it all. It's just the fact that a lot of NHL teams do this during the season. They do not want their guys interviewing elsewhere during the offseason. That's fine, whatever. But at that point during the time, it was during the season, and they did not want to distract from his current assignment. That's very common around the NHL. And on that note, I will also include it. That's also why I don't want the Senators to rush into their permanent head coach hiring this year, because that's eliminating so many options. If I'm looking here really quickly, I've got an article that was written by ESPN in March of this year. So some of these names are off the list, but names here, if we look at the first one, Andrew Burnett, not available. He's head coach now. If you look at Spencer Carberry, not available. He's a head coach now. If you look at Jay Leach, assistant coach of the Seattle Kraken, he's not leaving Seattle mid-season to go to Ottawa because Seattle's not going to let him. If you look at Marco Stern, same thing. He's the AHL Ontario Reign head coach. Same thing. LA's not going to let him lead your organization during the season. Ryan Warsofsky, San Jose Sharks, same thing.
I'm just going to chime in just quickly and say it doesn't happen very often that we see an OHL, CHL, whatever AHL coach get elevated to an NHL position, but we did see that in Edmonton.
Yeah,
so it does happen.
Chris Knobloch.
Yes, it does happen occasionally, but you're right. It's usually
very rare.
Yeah, the club is usually pretty apprehensive to doing that mid-season or early in the season. But yes,
very, very rare. Yes,
I just wanted to throw that in there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely. It's definitely as a possibility, but I think it's this. It's very, very, very rare, and I don't know what ended up leading to that decision, but it was something that happened. Yeah. But when was the last time that happened, to your knowledge?
Honestly, I would be remiss in saying I don't know. That's the first time that's the first time I remember that happening in season. But that's not to say that it's never happened before.
It does happen.
It does, but to your point, and please continue. I think you're on a good roll there, but it does happen. But you're right, it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, and that's why. That's like I said. That's why I think. I'm not going to continue listing on the names on this article, but because it's the exact same story every single time. We could if I want to, but I'm just not going to bore you. That all these names are currently employed elsewhere, and those teams, I'm willing to bet, are not going to be willing to lose their top possession during the season. Yeah. These are moves that happen in the off season. Most of the time, when you fire a coach during the season, it's replaced by an interim head coach. If you look at Montreal Canadiens, when they fired Claude Julien, Dominique Ducharme was named the interim head coach to start. He eventually got the title because he took the team to the Stanley Cup Finals. And then obviously when he was fired, Martin Saint-Louis was brought in again as an interim head coach. If you look at the Boston Bruins, when they fired Claude Julien, Bruce Cassidy was promoted on an interim basis. If you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, I'm going way back now. Pittsburgh Penguins, when they fired, I forget who it was, they brought in Mike Sullivan on an interim basis. He kept the job because he won the Stanley Cup, but that's besides the point. If you look at who else can I think of? So many teams do this on an interim basis. They just need a new voice for the season, and that coach has a bit of an audition for the job, and that coach a lot of the time does end up getting the job. If you look at the Calgary Flames, the last few Calgary Flames head coaches, except for before Darryl Sutter was hired, the last 4 coaches were like that. Glenn Gulutzan, Bill Peters, who else am I missing? But all those guys were hired as interims who eventually retained the title. So that's why I think if anything happens during the season, it's going to be on an interim basis.
Yeah,
that's why I think it's going to be. And That's my note on that. On that note, let's take a quick look at some potential options. I'm going to start that off with a recent poll that we actually did on the day of recording this podcast. By the time that this podcast is released, it's going to be, the pulse is going to be over, but let me just pull this poll really quick. At the current moment in time, so what I do for these polls, because Chris does, like, I'm going to say 97% of social media running, if not higher. He runs most of the social media, but some of these polls I put out, and Chris is doing a phenomenal job. I just want to take a minute really clear to give a quick round of applause to Chris for doing a great job running our social media.
Thank you.
Sort of plug there. But yeah, on this, when I do these polls, I try to get each one of us. So me, Chris, and Alex each pick a guy. And in this poll, I said, who should the next coach of the Senators be? The options, I chose Jay Woodcroft, Alex chose Dean Edison, and the winner of the poll was Patrick Roy, who was chosen, by Chris. So obviously those are not the three lone names available. There is so many names. Like I just gave you a long laundry list, and there's so many other options on the table. One funny option that was put on there was Ray Ferraro. I don't think Ray Ferraro is a coach, but
yeah, a great hockey
man. Sorry, I was reading the comment. Great hockey man, but at this point in his career, he's not going back to coaching. He's happy where he's at. Yeah. He's one of the elites when it comes to broadcasting, and he's not leaving that job for a coaching job, especially not in Ottawa. So a shout out to what's his name? Shout out to at one Sens fan 1 for that chime in. I love these comments. It's always nice seeing just an out there name, and it'd be cool to see Ferraro behind the bench, but it's just not going to happen.
No.
So, Chris, you said you think the Ottawa Senators should hire Patrick Roy. Would you like to elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, I think it's important to establish. So thank you for the shout out for the social media stuff. I would also say, I feel like considering I've won the last 2 polls, it was really difficult for you to say. You pretended as though you were like, I just got to clear my throat here. It sounded like it was really challenging for you to admit that I had won that poll. But I digress. So I would say. Yeah, I understand for some people, Patrick Roy, especially if you think back to his record with the Colorado Avalanche, he did win the Jack Adams with them. His last 2 seasons missed the playoffs. He didn't have necessarily, he missed the playoffs 2014 and 2015. Had less than 90 points. His first season, which is the season, so 2013, 2014, that's when he won the Jack Adams with a record of 52, 22, and 8 with 112 points. Finished first in the Central Division. Did end up losing in the first round in 7 games. But when I think about, sometimes a coach, especially when you're coaching for Patrick Roy, he was coaching his team. I mean, later in his career. Oh, here I am. I'm back again. Great.
Sorry, that was a bit of a technical issue. Sorry about that. Keep going.
Yep, that's okay. I'm good. So, so obviously it's a little bit more challenging for you to coach in this case, your most recent team who, you have deep connections with, you won a Stanley Cup with, all that sort of stuff. So I can kind of see, and he was really aggressive. He was definitely outspoken. But when you look at his junior career, and again, I understand we just talked about DJ and how his career, he was actually really successful as a junior coach, but not as successful as a head coach. I think part of that was, though, his team. So I do want to give that caveat. I don't think DJ has ever, up until specifically this year, but also last year, up until last year more than this year, or sorry, this year more than last year, has he been given a really, really good team?
Hold on, sorry. I'm just going to take a quick second to say that there has been an NHL goalie goal. Tristan Jarry just scored a goalie goal.
Oh,
sorry.
Nice. So
go ahead.
Who are the Penguins playing? Well, we're going to assume I can't hear him, so we're just going to.
Yeah, sorry. I hit the wrong button. That was Tristan Jarry who scored on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I'm sorry for interrupting you for a second time now. It was just really cool. It was a really cool goal. I will send you that to you in a second.
Nice. I can't wait to see. And I will wrap things up by saying, if you, again, like I said, I understand that there are going to be some apprehensions because we're talking about a head coach that's been successful over the past couple of seasons with the, in this case, the Quebec Ramparts. Again, talking about Patrick Roy. But when you look at his record over the past 2 seasons, and I'm doing live math right here, so not a math guy, I just play one on TV. We're looking at over the last 2 seasons, that's 104, 27, and 5. So I would say, he lost. He was first in both seasons in the Eastern Division. Lost in the 3rd round against Shawinigan 2 seasons ago, so 2021, 2022. Won this season against Seattle. Again, was first in the division. I would say, his record in junior is 524, 255, and 66 for a whopping 1,116 points over his career. 6 division titles, 12 playoff appearances, and 2 Memorial Cups. I'll take that any day of the week. And I do think there are some people who feel like his defensive structure is his opportunity. Look at his results. And again, I understand that it's not necessarily transferable, but I would say we have the right pieces. This is the first time this is our best defensive core. Yes, we've had injuries, and that's the reason we're not seeing the success. We have the right pieces in place. We just have to slot them properly, and they all have to be healthy. His defensive structure, that isn't going to be an issue. His strength is offense. And based off our last game, and arguably the game before that, certainly this past game, offense has been the opportunity. So, Jake, I'm going to throw it back to you. Just know I'm right. And the people have spoken.
So, at this current moment in time, out of those 3 options, that definitely is the option that has prevailed so far. And I will say that Patrick Roy is definitely a very, very good option. When I made my pick, I was a little annoyed that Chris took Patrick Roy because Patrick Roy would have probably been one of my top 3 guys. But I ended up with Jay Woodcroft, and I went with that simply as I like Dean Evison. I truly, truly do. I like Patrick Roy. I truly, truly do. But out of those 3 guys, I'm picking Jay Woodcroft just because.
I will say, and I'm going to interrupt you for just 1 second. Yep. I will say all 3 options were great options. I would be happy with any one of them. They're all underrated. So yes, if you end up, one thing's to win a poll, one thing's to win at the end. If we get Jay Woodcroft, I would be totally fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think between those 3 guys, I don't think there's a wrong option. I think each one of them provides something that the other one, like that would be good for the Ottawa Senators. When it comes to Jay Woodcroft, he coached Leon Draisaitl, he coached Connor McDavid. I'm sorry, I completely blanked on his name for a second. I had a long day at work. I'm so sorry. He knows how to coach stars and get very good results out of stars. He's the winningest coach in Edmonton Oilers history based on point percentage. He's a very, very talented coach. He did not deserve to get fired the way he did in Edmonton, but he's a very good coach, and he coaches a good system that I think the Ottawa Senators could win. When it comes to Dean Evison, look what Dean Evison was able to do in Minnesota. He's just such a good coach. He was able to turn Frédéric Gaudreau into a first-line center, and was able to do the same thing with Ryan Hartman. I'm not trying to diss on either of those players, but for so far his entire career, Gaudreau has been a bottom 6 guy, and Hartman has been pretty much the same. He's able to get a 30-goal season out of Ryan Hartman. like again, like way better player than I'll ever be. He's in the NHL. He's a very talented player, but I would have never guessed Ryan Hartman would be a 30-goal man, and that's thanks to Dean Evison being able to deploy him in the proper role. So that's why I'm looking there. He's able to get like that extra mile out of guys that didn't know they had. When it comes to Patrick Roy, I think Patrick Roy is the exact opposite of DJ Smith. When it comes to DJ Smith, is a guy who will definitely hype the players up, but he's also not able. Like DJ Smith hasn't been able to properly give. Like sometimes you got to give your players a kick in the butt. Not necessarily call them out in front of the fan base. Not necessarily, a la Patrick Roy say, I don't like that celebration on an empty net goal for Matt Duchene or whatever the case was. It was his 30th goal a year, I think, at that point. But I don't think that DJ Smith needs to go that far or go like to Mike Keenan types levels of being like harmless players. But the Ottawa Senators at this point in time needs a coach that is different than our players' coach. I'm not saying we need Mike Keenan. I'm not saying we need John Tortorella. I'm not saying we need any of those guys. But we need someone who's able to kick the players in the butt when they need to. And I think that Patrick Roy has grown from calling Matt Duchene out on celebrating on his 30th goal of the season. He had to. Coaching and being the general manager of a juniors team, it kind of teaches you to be mindful that players have more of a feelings than sometimes you might admit. Because remember, Patrick Roy became a coach basically not too long after retiring from the game. He had little to no coaching experience at that point in time. It was his first job, and he learned from his mistakes in Quebec, and he built a winner in Quebec. So I like at the end of the day, a winner in junior doesn't necessarily mean a winner in the NHL, but he does show that he does know how to win. And with his 4 Stanley Cup rings plugging his ears, he definitely has the ability to shut the players up at times when needed. And I think that's what you need to do. I'm not saying you need to dominate the room, like I said, by any means, but you need to be able to put the players in their proper spaces at times. Like,
yeah, and I would say there's also the amount of respect too, right? Like,
yes,
as much as obviously Patrick Roy has been out of the game for as long as he has, there's going to be the players know who Patrick Roy is, and so he immediately commands that room and will help to lead that. So, help to lead that room. I absolutely 100% agree that I think the not only did the players not play for DJ in that game, in this last game, but they also it feels as though DJ's lost his voice in that room. When you have someone like, if you had, imagine it like a player personnel team of Patrick Roy and Daniel Alfredson, like,
yeah,
you're gonna listen to that, right? So
I think what the Ottawa Senators truly need, I think the perfect coach for the Ottawa Senators, if he's not available, he's coaching the Nashville Predators now. But I think that Andrew Brunette would have been the absolute perfect coach for the Ottawa Senators. But because he's not available, I think Patrick Roy, Dean Evison, Jay Woodcroft are all favorites for me. But one guy I'm going to add in there that I've talked about so much, I'm going to sound like a friggin' broken record at this point. Ricard Gromberg. How is he not an NHL coach?
Yeah, that's fair.
He is so good. He has developed the likes of Daniel Alfredson, Matt Sundin, Nicholas Lidstrom, Matt Sundin already said, Erik Karlsson. Did I say Daniel Alfredson?
Yeah.
Henrik Lundqvist. He has coached all of the all-time great Swedish players. He's been the Swedish coach for such a long time. He's not anymore, I don't think. But he's such a good coach. And for years, he has been interviewing for a very early stage interviewing for NHL jobs. And at some point, someone's going to be the lucky son of a gun to be able to hire that guy. And I wish it were Ottawa. Realistically speaking, it's probably not going to be the case. But I would be so happy for Ricard Gromberg to get that job.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, or at least be a part of the coaching staff. Yeah, I agree.
Oh, at least, yeah, at least he'd be a great part of the team.
Yeah, and I wonder if Daniel Alfredson might have a hand in maybe bringing him aboard. That would be, yeah. I would love that. Yeah,
I would love that. Yes, yes.
And we're back, and we're going to hear from DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's THPN, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after assurance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369 in Connecticut. Hope is available for problem gamblers. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 188 hours after assurance. See DKNG.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright the NHL 2023. All rights reserved. There we go. Made it through it.
Thank you very much, Chris, for that. Let's move on to our next topic of discussion here. We're going to be talking very quickly about the game against the Florida Panthers. We alluded to a little earlier. We're gonna skip the heartache because, honest to God, it was a very, very crappy game. Let's just try to get it to a bit of a footnotes. What are you thinking, Chris, other than the fact that Brady Tkachuk is going to eventually beat the crap out of Matthew?
So I would say two things. One, thank you to everyone who did show up for our very first, Twitter Spaces after the show. After the show. Yeah, that would be a great way to say it. After the game, it was great to see everyone show up there and share their frustrations, and gave us a great chance to just let everything out. So thank you once again, everyone who showed up for that. Special shout out to, and I said this during the show, but Bailey Curtis from the Surgecast podcast, which super stoked about being able to chat with them a little bit later on. What I would say, and again, in the effort of, or in the essence of being able to kind of keep this succinct, I would say when you're after 3 periods, you're down. So after the third period, you were down 38-20 in terms of shots. 5-0 was the score. And for the very first time, or at least I cannot recall the last time I ever saw a game in which every player got a penalty who was on the ice. I think not only was that a joke, and I don't mean to harp on the refs. They have a really terrible gig. But I would say that was a joke on their behalf, and it looked really bad on the league to have every player on the ice get a game misconduct. That was absolutely absurd. And it was so embarrassing. And you see everywhere on social media that it's like everyone's like, what constitutes everyone getting a game misconduct? That was a perfect, example of how the entirety of the game went for the Sens. That was their worst game of the season, not even close. One of their worst games in a number of seasons. That was, if I didn't make game notes so that I could make sure that I was well informed in these discussions, I would have shut that game off after 2 periods. That was awful. I hated it. I hated it so much.
No, thank you very much for getting a rundown. I eventually did turn the game off. I turned the game off for a good half hour, I'll say halfway through the second period, I turned it off, and halfway through the third period, I turned it back on because apparently it was starting to get into something. I was like, you know what? If I have to watch the Senators be bad, I might as well watch some circus stuff. I don't like watching that kind of thing, but it's just you had to watch something, right? So it's to me, it's getting to the point where it's getting hard again to watch the Ottawa Senators, and I hate that. Right now, we're recording on here. Let me get the date here, November 30th, and I said that it's hard to watch the Ottawa Senators. I think that's the earliest I've ever said that about the Senators. That absolutely sucks. Like we said earlier, the season's going to be extremely rough, but the Senators had to win that game. Unfortunately, they did not.
Well, I did. I don't want to brag or anything. Not that I've done that enough tonight, but I would say that so I recall I said in their last podcast that they were going to lose that game. Not that I ever thought that it would be that bad. My goodness, don't.
Oh God.
Yeah. I think Alex said that he thought that we were going to lose. Did you say you thought we were going to win?
I thought we were going to win. Yes.
Yeah.
Chris Stradamus.
Yeah. We could. Yeah, that's fine. I'll change my name. That's fine.
Chris Stradamus.
Yeah. But I definitely didn't think it was. I was embarrassed, and I think
it was a rough game.
Like when you think about the fact that Andlauer was in the building. He's actually been in the building for quite a number of games, so maybe that doesn't seem so significant, but still having the owner in the building, it was a really important night with it being a Hockey Fights Cancer. There were it was a very emotional pregame ceremony, all that sort of stuff. And then you also, at least near and dear to my heart, is you had a number of the Ottawa PWHL team in attendance as well. And to show them that it's like a double-edged sword where you're seeing the players not performing, but you also see how passionate the fans are. It was tough for me to watch that game. So yeah, for a number of reasons. So
that's fair.
Yeah,
it's a very good point, and it is just to put it simple. Again, hard to watch, and it's gotten to the point where it's going to be a tough season.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Ottawa Senators are tough team to watch, and they're going to be a tough team to watch until some very, very difficult conversations have been had. And the sooner those conversations have been had, the better. But Sens fans, hang on to your caps. We're in for a tough one. And on that note, let's move on to something a little bit more fun because we could use it. We're going to move on to a new segment that we tried last time around, and it was super fun. Last time was a bit too long, but it was fun anyway, so we're going to do something else this time. We're going to be calling it Game Time. And this is where I get the creative cap on, and I guess we all get the creative cap on. I come up with a question, some sort of this or that, some sort of who would you rather, like a bench or cut, start bench cut, or in this case, we're going to do a bit of a draft. Again, Chris has no idea what I'm doing here.
I promise anyone who's watching, anyone who's listening, I literally only know that we're playing a game right now. I promise you, that's all I know.
Yeah, that's all we know. Is when I sent out the nerd report for tonight's episode, I said, final segment, game time, surprise. So our game time tonight is going to be pretty simple.
And anyone who knows me knows that I do not like surprises. So this is always fun for Jake or anyone listening.
Yes. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Tonight, we're going to do a draft.
Okay.
We're going to draft our ideal coaching.
Oh.
Starting off by a head coach, associate coach, assistant coach, and goalie coach.
Okay. And you're going to give me the names?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm horribly under. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so let's do it. Okay.
And because of this, I'm giving you a first overall pick, and I did no research for this, just to make it fair.
Okay. So am I good to go now? Yeah? You want me to?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're going to start off with the head coach.
Okay. Bruce Cassidy.
Okay, that's a good point. Do you have any point as to why you're choosing Bruce Cassidy?
Super successful in Boston. Took over a program in Las Vegas. Took them right to the cup, and they had a system in which what were they down to? Their fourth line, or third or fourth goaltender, right? So clearly there was again, my middle name should. It's no longer Adam. It is structure. Their structure was just incredible. Offense, they're so offensively strong, defensively sound, which supports their goaltending, and it's continued. I know they've gone on a bit of they went on a bit of a tear to start this season, and they've been quite the opposite over the last, I think, 10 games or something like that. But I would still take Bruce Cassidy.
Fair.
And he's an Ottawa guy too, so
yeah, he's an Ottawa guy. So I'm just going to clarify. This is a coaching staff for your Ottawa Senators. Anybody on the table that is, I guess, eligible to work. So, like, you can't get Scotty Bowman, obviously. So anybody who would work in today's NHL, and are you still good with Bruce Cassidy?
Yeah. As long as, sorry, I guess I should have clarified. So no one who's retired, anyone who's currently in the game, even if they're obviously employed or not.
Yeah, if they're employed in the NHL, the AHL, the OHL, or like have expressed interest in returning to the NHL.
Okay, cool. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. So on that note, I'm going to pick John Cooper.
Solid.
I think John Cooper's able to he coached Martin St. Louis. He coached he coached Martin St. Louis. Yeah, he did. He coached he's coached Steven Stamkos. He's coached Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, Anthony Cirelli, Brandon Hagel, Victor Hedman. He's coached all these great guys to 2 Stanley Cups. And in my mind, he's the best coach in the game today. And I think that if Ottawa has any way, shape, or form of prying him out of Tampa Bay, they have to do it. Any team who has the ability to hire John Cooper has to do it.
Yeah.
Now, on that note, do we want to do a snake draft, or do you want to just continue? You pick, I pick, you pick, I pick, or do you want to do me pick than you?
I would say, as selfishly as I want to come back to me, I would say, no, let's do a snake draft, because then you get to do 2. Yeah, and then I get to do 2.
That's fair. All right. So on that note, on the associate coach. Yeah. The associate coach, just for the purpose of this exercise, the associate coach is not going to be in charge of any special team. He's just going to help the coach, just for the purpose of this exercise. So really, we're picking head coach, associate coach, PK coach, power play coach, goalie coach, video coach, and not video coach, and goalie coach.
Yeah, I would say let's end it goalie coach.
Yeah, we're not gonna do video coach because I don't know enough video coaches to do that. And I don't think Chris does either.
No.
So associate coach, I'm gonna say, hold on here, who I think would do good. Guy Boucher. No, I'm joking.
That was that instantly. You. I think we all just heard everyone click like unsubscribe from our podcast.
Okay, quick question. Who would you rather coach the Senators, Guy Boucher or DJ Smith? If you had to pick one or the other.
Oh, you're not going to like this, but it might be...
I'm picking Boucher.
Yeah, I was going to say...
At least there was structure.
Yeah, I was going to say, with this team, I would say Boucher. Yeah.
That's fair. All right, on that note, let's get back to the exercise at hand. For the associate coach, I'm going to say I'm going to pick Mike Sullivan.
Oh, good one. Okay, cool.
I think that Mike Sullivan has coached. Obviously, he won 2 cups. He's coached Sidney Crosby, guys like that. I think he'd be able to give a good backup voice to John Cooper. And who are you picking there? Associate coach, then either power play or penalty kill. You have to specify.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, that's going to be a bit challenging, but we'll figure it out. So I would say this is where I'm just trying to beef up this coaching staff. This is where I would say, if I had the choice, it's going to be Claude Julien.
Claude Julien as your associate coach?
Yeah.
All right. Elaborate on that.
I just think that the way that he is able to see the game would further emphasize or further support Bruce Cassidy's defensive structure, especially his defensive structure. That's Julian's. I'm assuming you're writing everything down so that we remember. Okay, cool. I realized that I probably should have done that, but okay, good. Yeah, I would say, especially right now with Ottawa's defensive breakdowns, having somebody else to be able to look at that and spend more time in that space. Bruce Cassidy is going to be somebody who's going to have a lot of opinions and a lot of voice in that space. But I would say Julian being able to spend a lot more time would be absolutely beneficial to the defensive structure, so that they can create a their transition game can be more effective.
That's fair. All right. Oh, that's a good point. On that note, who are you picking first? Your penalty kill coach or your power play coach?
I'm going to do, and I literally have no evidence to back this up, so I'm just doing it because I said his name earlier. I want Patrick Waugh as a part of this coaching staff. And
what is he coaching for you?
Some would say, why don't you have him as the goaltending coach?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that, and I have a name, and it's going to surprise some, even myself, but it was the first name, and it's someone that I think is a little bit more underrated than he should be. So I'm not going to say his name, but I'm actually going to have Patrick Waugh as my power play.
Interesting. Why would you say that?
No evidence, nothing, just want him to be part of it. And I already have a goaltending coach in mind. So there's literally no stats to back that up. I just really want him to be part of this coaching staff.
All right. On that note, I'm going to go with my power play, and I'll go with my penalty kill. Then you're going to go Patty including goalie coach. So let's hope you're right there. For power play, I'm going to go.
We can't pick the same names, right?
No, we cannot pick the same names.
Okay.
Yeah. So for power play, I'm going to go. I'm gonna have to go with former assistant coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, currently the head coach of the Washington Capitals, Spencer Carberry. Spencer Carberry was able to do really, really good work with the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of their power play. It was one of the top power plays in the NHL last year, and I think that he would be, if I had to pick a current coach, if Ottawa had to pick out of like the guys who were available in last offseason, I would have picked Andrew Burnett, and I would have picked Spencer Carberry as number 2 because they're very similar coaches in my mind. That's why I want Spencer Carberry as the power play coach of the Ottawa Senators there. But I could have also gone with Andrew Burnett because I'm pretty sure he ran New Jersey's power play last season. So I'm going to say Spencer Carberry. And in terms of my penalty kill coach, that's going to be a rough one, honestly. Oh. Shoot. Oh, I'm going to say I like Vegas's penalty kill. I think Vegas's penalty kill is pretty good this year. I'm pretty sure they're top 5 in the NHL currently in penalty kill. And if my memory serves me correct, Dominique Ducharme is currently coaching their penalty kill. So I'm going to say Dominique Ducharme as the penalty kill coach. I think Ducharme was one of those coaches who was very, very, very good in juniors. But I have no idea what happened in Montreal because none of the plays that he used in juniors were used in Montreal. So I'm willing to say that he just kind of continued what Claude Julien was preaching and hope it worked. And it worked for the Wilds. He just stuck with it. So I'm going to say I'm going to say Dominique Ducharme as PK coach. because I like what he's doing. If he's the person that's running, it's either Dimitri Deschamps or Joe Ward running Vegas's penalty kill, but I'm pretty sure it's Dimitri Deschamps, so I'm going to say him.
Okay.
What about you?
Okay, so I think I'm at my
penalty killed and goalie.
Okay. I'm doing both, yeah?
Yeah, both. PK first.
So PK, Lindy Ruff.
Ooh.
Yes. I just want to bring a little bit more experience or continue bringing more experience to this coaching staff. He's obviously had a ton of success over the years. I also think it'll be a little bit awkward seeing him behind the Ottawa Senators bench, but that's fine. It was a little awkward seeing him behind the Devils bench. So, but he's had a ton of success in turning around the entirety of the game for the New Jersey Devils, and I just think that he can do the same for the Ottawa Senators. I don't have his stats, but I know that he's, I actually predicted they're not doing as well this season, but I predicted them to finish second overall in the Eastern. So just behind Carolina, I do think that they will get there. And then to wrap things up quickly here, I'm actually going to do, so you said that it has to be a player or someone who's they're already coaching somewhere, or they're already in someone's organization.
In theory, yes, or someone who's been around the NHL coaching room, or someone who makes sense to be a coach.
Okay. So I actually I had a different name because I know he's really well respected, but I'm going to go with, that was my drum roll. I realized you just made knocking. Martin Brodeur for my goaltending coach.
Ooh.
So imagine a coaching staff that included both Patrick Roy and Martin Brodeur.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So, and I would say also too, for me, something that, and this is something that Michael Langlois, this is going to kind of sound silly to maybe some people, but something that Michael Langlois had shared in his first press conference and has done so numerous times since, is the importance for a French connection, especially with the, Ottawa-Gatineau. And so I just think that the more people that they can bring in, I thought about Pierre Groulx. Obviously, he's now goaltending coach for the Ottawa PWHL team. But I just think that if we can bring in some French voices, some voices who can also take interviews in French, I think that's something that's super important and underrated. So besides his all-star and Hall of Fame career, that's something that I think is really, really important for this, specifically for this team.
Okay, so that's a very good name. That's not at all who you thought I was gonna. That's not at all who I thought you were gonna take. That leaves so many names for me here.
Who did you think I was gonna take?
I thought you were gonna pick. Zach Burke.
Oh, funny enough, I was actually gonna pick Sean Burke.
That's the guy I'm most likely gonna end up picking.
Yeah.
But now I have to think.
Yeah.
Do I want to go Sean Burke? Do I want to go Pierre Groulx? Do I want to go Zach Bierk, or do I want to go Benoit Allaire?
Oh yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
because Allaire was Henrik Lundqvist's goalie coach.
Yeah,
and he's actually available right now. He got fired from New York not too long ago, so he's currently up for grabs.
And you could also go with someone if we're talking about New York goaltenders, Jonathan Quick. The fact that he is goaltending coach this past summer was Manny Legacy. And
I forgot about him.
Yeah, that was another name that I thought about because he's turned look at Legacy Jonathan Quick this season. He's 6-0-1 or something like that this season.
Best backup in the NHL.
Yeah, he's incredible. So, and he's apparently going to bring him on again. So that was another name that I debated, but I went with an all-star.
I forgot about Manny Legacy. That's a very good one. I'm surprised that Columbus let him go.
Yeah,
that's a very good name. Oh man, now who do I pick? Because all those guys are available. I'm gonna win this no matter what. Not gonna lie, I think I'm gonna win this one no matter what.
Okay.
I think, okay. And I gave you first overall.
You did, yeah. and I made the right decision. So
we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go just based on what he was able to do last season with the Vegas Golden Knights. What did they have? 5 goalies last year.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna go with Sean Burke.
Okay.
Just simply based on the fact of what he was able to do with 5 goalies of last year. I think he was Vegas's MVP last playoffs. I think he was the real Conn Smythe Trophy winner, Sean Burke. So I'm gonna go Sean Burke. But man, you made that hard for me. I was fully expecting you to go Zach Burke, Sean Burke, or not related, by the way, or Piagu.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then part of me, being a Sens fan, wanted to go Mike Condon because Mike Condon is currently Devin Levi's goalie coach during the summer. So I kind of wanted to go that route, but I decided not to. So yeah, Sean Burke is my pick there.
Okay, sounds good.
And on that note, that was a fun exercise. I had something. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I had something completely different in mind, but I'm going to save that for another episode when Alex can join us because it's something Alex would love to do. I decided drafting coaching staff literally as I was talking to you, saying what I was deciding. So I had no time to do any research.
That's great. So that's great. It's always fun when you're doing a game where no one knows what the heck is going on. That was fun. That was I'm sweating pretty hard right now. So that was good. That was good. Keeps me on my toes.
Love it. All right. On that note, that was game time. We're definitely going to try to do this more often. And before we head off, I want to give I want to pass the microphone over to Chris a bit to talk about a bit of a new project that he's embarking on. He's not leaving to talk in some Sens podcast. I want to reiterate that he has promised me he's staying. There's the ball and chain right there. He's not going anywhere. So Chris, I'll pass it over to you. I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to be able to announce for the very first time, first of all, again, I am not leaving this podcast. The Ottawa Senators, I bleed Ottawa Senators. I will always bleed Ottawa Senators. But I am super excited to announce for the very first time, I will be starting the very first Professional Women's Hockey League podcast on the Hockey Podcast Network. And that will be launching as of launch of this show. So it should be available for you starting tomorrow when you can find this podcast. When you've made it to this part in the podcast, you will then be able to check out the at the PWHL podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on socials, all at the exact same thing. I wanted to make it nice and easy for everyone, including myself, with it being at the PWHL podcast. And that's where you're going to be able to find all of your Professional Women's Hockey League information. I will be doing, it's hosted by just me, and I'll be doing a ton of in-depth conversations, insights, breakdowns of games. Today I actually just purchased my season tickets for the at least the Ottawa PWHL team, so I'll be able to check out and provide you with live content. So make sure to check it out. It's also available on YouTube, again, at the PWHL podcast. Super excited about this opportunity, and I cannot wait to be able to connect with all of you, to be able to enjoy what will be an incredible inaugural season. The Women's League, women's hockey is so underrated and so underappreciated. It's time that we show up for them, and this is our chance. So let's make sure we come together, we hang out, we chat professional women's hockey, and we all get to just enjoy what an incredible game they put on the ice. Game in, game out.
Thank you so much for that, Chris. I'm so happy to be able to see Chris oversee this project and really bring it into his own. I know Chris is very, very passionate about women's hockey, and I learned most of what I know about women's hockey has come straight from Chris. So he is the absolute best person throughout the Hockey Podcast Network and anywhere really to embark on this project. And I'm so happy to be able to support him through this.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. So just again, remember, it's at the PWHL podcast. Follow us there, follow me there, and let's enjoy this season together.
Yes, it's gonna be really fun to collaborate throughout the season. We're gonna try to see what we can make work there, and maybe you'll see me on there. You never know. You never know.
You never know. Crossovers, they're the best.
Oh yeah, we love crossovers.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Talking Some Sense podcast. Alex was away this week, and he will most likely be away for the next little bit as he is on vacation. We do not want Alex being bothered by us. Alex, if you're listening this far, turn your phone off. Enjoy the sun.
We appreciate the support, but this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. You're enjoying the sun. That's what matters. Enjoy for all of us. We're living vicariously through you. No pressure, but stop listening and let us enjoy it.
On that note, thank you so much to all you Sens fans for making this possible. I'm Jake for Chris Sinclair. You're listening to the Talking Some Sense podcast.